Good care for me would be somewhere that I could see their staff are cared for as well. That gives me a sense of how they would look after my family member.
So you are currently Midlands Head of Region at Skills for Care.
Yes. I enjoyed working with those young people who had some awful experiences in life. People were saying, oh, well, the young offenders, they're nothing but trouble. But actually, they were children.
You'd been a carer. And then you became a family carer. Was that a really natural thing for you? Was it completely new territory anyway?
In some respects, sometimes a little knowledge it can be dangerous because it is very, very different. You don't want to make my family members' home my workplace.
I think that time period has been quite transitional for our workforce.
People who work in social care are amazing. People just said, that's it. We've just got to get on and do it. So I became the Del Boy of social care. Retention's the best form of recruitment.
When we look at the numbers, we can bring people into the roles. We can't keep people in the roles.
We already know the factors that contribute to retention. Having that plan B, plan C, plan D. Building that trust and that team culture.
Where does self-care come into that?
If you don't look after yourself, how can you look after others?
Induction, I think, is the most important part of retaining somebody.
Without a doubt. When you're looking at future leaders and managers, start off early. The minute you see someone walk through the door in whatever role, have they got that little spark? We need a workforce who want to make a real difference to others' lives and grow and develop as an individual.
Welcome, Shirley.
Hello.
Nice to see you. I'm glad you could come today.
Thank you. It's really good to be here.
Good. So you are currently Midlands Head of Region at Skills for Care.
Yes.
I think we're going to talk a lot today about workforce.
I think
that might be where we end up.
Right, that could be where we end up.
So you've been at Skills for Care for about 8-9 years now?
Yes, it'll be coming up to 9 years soon.
Yeah.
Soon gone.
Yeah, I know. And we've talked a lot about how you support to develop the workforce, and maybe we'll touch on like self-care in that as well. I think that's something that stands strong with you, isn't it?
Yes.
How we need to be supporting the workforce to be quite what's the word I'm looking for? Resilient, that's the word I'm looking for, especially in today's times.
Yeah.
And Skills for Care obviously provides so much support and information for social care. Maybe we'll touch upon that a little bit as well, and all the good work you're doing. And I think it's important, especially now, because we're reaching a time, aren't we, where we're struggling to have the right numbers of staff. Well, we've been in that position for quite some time, but we're going to go back there because of all of the overseas workforce and the restrictions on that.
Yeah, we've seen a fall in that this last year. So yes.
Yeah. So encouraging new people into the sector is going to be a really important work, isn't it? And I think Skills for Care will
put the right
that.
people into the sector.
Absolutely. So let's think about how you got into the sector then. Let's start there. What encouraged you when you were fresh, looking for a career in front of you?
Many years ago. Well, I wanted to be a midwife, so I never got to be that because I got sucked into social care.
It happens. People tell us that.
Yeah, it does. So yes, I went to college. I'd had experience of voluntary work before going to college in the small village where I grew up. Went to college to do, show me age now, a preliminary certificate in social care or something like that. And I had placements in special needs primary school with older people with learning disabilities, and everyone I went to, I love this.
This is my favourite.
This is my best here. So the final one,
it happened,
was working with young people. And so an area I never even thought about, even knew about. But because of my background and everything like that, it actually felt really comfortable with me. I enjoyed working with those young people who had some awful experiences in life, hadn't had that support. And yes, people were saying, oh, well, the young offenders, they're nothing but trouble. But actually, they were children.
Yeah.
First and foremost, they were children. Yeah. And I got caught up with, the lovable rogues
Yeah.
and the cheeky chappies
with a bit of character.
and just think, and you could see the heart underneath them. You could see that they just wanted to be children.
And just wanted to be loved, I imagine.
Yeah, just needed someone to stop and listen and actually see them as an individual. So that sort of pulled me in then.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing that for a number of years. And I started, I'm talking many years ago. So started looking at how young people were leaving care.
Okay.
Because at that point, like I said, many years ago, they'd literally be off they'd go with the things in a bin bag.
Yeah.
And it's just like, whoa, hold on 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So started working with NACRO first off and looking at alternatives to education, which was really interesting for me. And then we started doing preparation for independence. So that sort of, that was a different angle for me. And then something happened in my life and I had to make a decision to change my career at that point. So I went straight back from I was a manager.
Yeah.
And I went straight back to being a grade 1 admin. Never touched a computer before, never done any admin course. I had to go and do touch typing lessons and all the rest of it.
Do with that now, I think.
I can't do it. Had the lessons, can't do it. But worked admin for youth offending and the foster and adoption team.
Okay. So similar, still in that
area.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then moved into the learning and development team in the local authority.
Yeah.
Became an MVQ coordinator, and then had an opportunity to work for a team that was based outside of the local authority. I suppose now it would be the start of a care association. It was a care partnership.
Okay, yeah.
And worked with the adult social care, which I touched on throughout my career, but never really worked long-term full-time in. So it was the name changed for many times, but it was Staffordshire. I think it was, I can't even remember what it was called now. Staffordshire Social Care Employer Group or something when I first joined. But that was really interesting, and I had an opportunity to grow there, which was great, and try things differently. So I started working alongside Skills for Care.
Okay.
And I really liked the values.
Yeah.
I did one of the first eye care ambassador services in the country. So I ended up doing that full time. My managers sort of said, go and do it, which was great. So I worked with schools. So that brought in working with young people.
Yeah.
Worked with schools and colleges, pre-employment groups, anyone who'd have me to go and say, come and work in the sector. Come and work in social care. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And it was great. I worked with the local theatre, we did conferences, and just so interesting working, in that environment and encouraging people in. And then I always said Skills for Care would be one place I'd like to work, So I did lots of things in between. I helped set up what was then Care Match, which was almost like a recruitment portal for individual employers and PAs. And again, I was given that opportunity. Which was really interesting. So all these different elements of my learning and experience, when the position came up in Skills for Care, which was quite rare at that time, I went for it. I was quite shocked when I got it as locality manager, but have really enjoyed it. And then almost 3 years ago, my manager retired and encouraged me to go for it, and the team did as well, which was really special.
Yeah, that's good. You know that they've got your back and that they would approve of that position, so that's good. Brilliant. Well, quite a history for us to go through.
I think that was
exactly. Starting with children's services then, I think there's something magical about children's services. You don't see the impact of your work until much later. And I remember you saying to me, someone that you booked into much later down the line. Tell us about that.
Many years afterwards, going with my children when they were little to Stafford, which is, a town a few miles from me. Took them on the day, on the train for the day out and playing in the park. And this man came up to us and I was like, oh. I'm in the park, my children, this man's coming saying, hello. And I'm like, all right, hello.
Right.
And he says, it's Shirley, isn't it? I'm saying, yes. So I'm thinking, okay. He said, you don't know. I said, no, I'm so sorry. I don't. Anyway, it turned out he was a young man that I'd was a key worker for many years ago. And the last time I'd seen him is when he was going to court, and we knew he was going to get custodial.
Right.
And I remember having a conversation with him, and I said, look, please take the opportunity. I know you don't think it is, but take the opportunity, have a think, whatever they offer, you an opportunity to go for it. And he said, you thought I didn't listen. I said, well, yeah. I'll be honest, yeah. And he says, well, I did actually. And he'd taken some of his qualifications. He'd taken some counselling. He'd taken opportunities from there. And actually then when I met him, he was either owned or managed a nightclub.
Yeah.
And he brings in mental health workers. He was bringing in people around drug and drink abuse to talk to the people who came into the club and sort of discourage the use of drugs.
Wow.
And I just thought...
Passing it on.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, pay it forward.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there was another girl who, the first person I actually supported into her own supported accommodation, and she named her first child after my daughter.
Wow.
A few years later, so that was really special.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't always see that impact when you're working with young people.
You absolutely don't. It's only much, much later. And do you think those kind of role models then, like, are really important to people, throughout their childhood? It's important to have that advice. I always think that one of the most challenging things or difficult things for looked after children is, where does your advice, your kind of legacy stuff come from? But clearly you've been passing yours on.
Well, maybe not all the time. Maybe you didn't all listen, but I think it is important to it's getting the right people with the right values, isn't it? Who are there and understand and see. I mean, we talk about person-centred care and support all the time, and it's very much so, whatever age, that should be the case. And look past that bravado sometimes, and that image that they put in front of themselves, and sort of gradually break those barriers down. Just takes a long time sometimes, and sometimes you never see it.
Yeah, no, often you don't.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's the beauty of it, is doing the work, doing it anyway because it's the right thing, and actually you
hope something just goes in like that.
Yeah,
that. Something went in, but I didn't know that.
No, and you probably would never have guessed which part went in anyway.
Oh.
Yeah. And then going back to Care Match, then, like, how did that? You said that you saw something inspired you to set that up.
It was. I didn't know a lot about individual employers and PAs at that time.
Yeah,
I knew a bit.
Yeah. Whenabouts was it?
Oh gosh, now you're going back. It must have been early 2000. It must have been
when it was not so common.
2006, 7. So early days, really. And it was in a local shop, and it was Mrs. Jones from round the corner at number 3, whatever, is looking for some support so many days a week at this, this is the wage. And it was like, gosh, anyone could go.
Yeah.
Anyone could turn up at that door.
Yeah.
And it sort of worried me. So I took it back, and as a team we started looking at it. We started looking at how we could start to support this. So I had this bright idea of sort of matching people up. So again, manager was amazing, and looked at getting some funding, and we got some support and worked with a web designer to set up Care Match.
Brilliant.
And then that grew. That became sort of a communication portal as well for all of adult social care in that area. So that was with and then we moved into Staffordshire County Council, and they continue, and they've just grown it, and Care Match isn't there anymore because there's something much better, and in regards to supporting the sector. But that's how that started, and I think now there's lots of PA registers and that around, but certainly in those days it was it just felt very dangerous to me.
Yeah, and I guess so the care match was about making sure that people had the right qualifications and that you were legitimately matching people up with the right background.
It gave them that little bit of they didn't go having to give, it was anonymized.
Yeah, bro. Okay, moving forwards then, and I think many people in social care draw on their lived experiences, which you said probably inspired you actually with the children's services bit. But I think it worked conversely for you as well, because later you'd been a carer and then you became a family carer.
Yeah,
and I think it can't be that frequent that someone's actually a professional before they're an informal carer. Although probably more and more so nowadays in the current climate. So was that a really natural thing for you to be a family carer, having had your experience previously? How did you feel walking on that situation, or is it completely new territory anyway, because it's family and it's a different thing?
I mean, in some ways you think, oh, I'll be able to help here, and hopefully I have done. I cared for my father and my mother, and now another family member. But in some respects, sometimes a little knowledge can be dangerous as well.
Yeah.
Because it is very, very different. You think, oh, I'll know the questions to ask. Well, sometimes you don't, because then you're very conscious that the person you're supporting has a voice, and it's very much, it's them, it's their support. So I have to take a step back. I'm not there as a social worker, as a care worker. And there as the daughter, as a sister, as whatever. So, and it's very important that they are listened to, and their choices are made. They make their own choices. But then when you see poor practice, it's difficult.
Yeah.
And it's hard to go in somewhere and you see where maybe they're as a home, whatever, as a service. Actually, I've got on my professional side some information and advice and resources that actually they could use. So it's like, well, when do you cross that and say, well, actually, I've noticed that this is happening. Can I just suggest?
Yeah.
I noticed that not all your staff have dementia awareness training.
So this is you as a family member witnessing the care that's been provided to your family member and thinking, yeah, I could do better at that.
Yeah, well, at least I know, there's some things that can support you. When you're seeing them struggle, and you just think, but you don't want to be seen as, oh, she's here again.
Yeah.
Telling us how to do our job.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard, and you don't want to make my, a family member's home my workplace.
I think we struggle with that crossover in the UK, especially that we've created a workforce that has, rightly so, very professional boundaries, and we should maintain those professional boundaries. But often, in these conversations that we have, everybody says the same thing, which is about bringing love and the human side into care and what that looks like. And yet, so we've got this I think, contention quite often between the way that family would do things and the way that professionals have to do things. And I feel like sometimes we can be at odds with each other. How would you kind of advise, how would you advise family carers to work well with the professional team that are around them? Because it can work, it can be beautiful, can't it? It can be a wonderful,
excellent,
joined up.
Yeah, I've had a great experience with one particular member of staff at the moment that's working with my family member, and it's because they've listened. They've listened to my family member. They've listened to me. They see where there's issues, and they've really tried to work differently and be person-centred.
Yeah.
So my family member, for example, does not come out of the room and they don't want to be integrated into anything else. That's their world. They're happy. So go into their world.
Yeah.
And this member staff's gone into their world and has found out what they like and talks about it and brings them out and has that conversation. And that, that is just so simple but so important. And I think for family members, it's about helping the staff get to understand your loved one.
Yeah, I think so.
And work together.
Yeah.
And it's not about, oh, well, that's not the way I do it.
Yeah.
No, it might not be, but you might not have been doing it the right way.
I think
for your loved one.
Yeah, exactly. And those relationships need nurturing, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
Relationships between professional paid carers and family carers, like if they're not maintained, it can have a really detrimental effect on the individual.
Yeah, without a doubt, because they are caught in the middle then.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't need that. You support others' development now?
Yes.
So who along that journey shaped your learning and development? Who taught you the things that were kind of like the fundamentals of care? Like, who can you think of now that like really influence that? It doesn't need to be names necessarily, more like roles.
Certainly two managers of mine. So the one I said, that sort of gave me the opportunity to do the iCare ambassadors, get involved in Care Match, etc. Just having someone who believed in me and some of the thoughts I had in my mind, and actually supported me through that, supported me with my learning as well to develop into that role. So I went into that role then, looking back, 2004, something like that. I hadn't really had much, like I said, I'd done a little bit of admin.
Yeah.
Been a manager, yes. Yeah. But other than that, the other side of it was pretty new. Yes, MVQs at that point I knew, but, that going and looking at development plans, workforce planning, that was all new to me.
Yeah.
But they believed in me and in my values and in my passions and nurtured and supported me and guided me. So I did some Open University and some other things around which they supported me in. So that was certainly one. It gave me that belief in myself as well, which was really good. And then my manager, when I came to Skills for Care, again, someone who took that, I went, it was very much a value-based interview and discussion, which was good. You didn't feel that you were on a test.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did I say the right thing? I've researched enough, but it was very much about me and my values again, and my understanding of the sector as a whole. And again, nurtured me and developed me and saw that potential in me to become head of region. And so from 2 years before, we talk now, I talk to managers now and say, when you're looking at future leaders and managers, start off early. The minute you see someone walk through the door in whatever role, have they got that little spark? A domestic, a chef, a care worker, whoever. And they've got something in them, isn't it, that become a leader.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you can train in the management elements, but having that inside that helps you lead and mentor others.
Yeah.
It's
its own skill set. And I think very often career progression, because we can't go up and up unless we move into a management position in social care, generally speaking.
Yeah.
We'll find really good carers move into leadership positions, but they are kind of two different skill sets.
They are. I sometimes say it's a little bit like a game of tag.
Yeah.
Is that a manager leaves and you haven't run fast enough and you tag you're it. And it's, there's so many people that are wonderful care workers, but actually management isn't the right focus for them. Yeah. But maybe actually focusing on something they've got an interest and a passion and specialise in. So if they've got a real interest in dementia or autism or, whatever that may be, is actually nurture that and get them to develop, which I suppose is what my manager did originally.
Yeah.
Found my interest, with working with young people, as well as encouraging people to work in the sector, brought it together and enabled me to then develop in that. And I think that's it. It doesn't always have to be upwards.
No.
It can be sideways and it can be specialising.
So I think when we think about workforce development, leadership and management is a really strong area, isn't it? Why do you think that's so important? I think for the reasons that you've described, because
I think you've as a leader and manager, you have your team and you've got to, one, understand the business and what your aims are in that. Obviously, deliver a quality service, care and support, but that can't be done if your team isn't supported, if they haven't got the right skills, if they're not, if they're not looking after, we touched on well-being earlier, if their own well-being isn't looked after, if they've got no direction, if they don't know the vision, if they haven't got the right values and behaviours. So it's really important that, we talked again about person-centred care and support plans. To me, you have a person-centred development plan for every member of your team. Because everyone will need different things. Yes, obviously there is the mandatory training that everyone's got to have, but then there is that, have you got a specialist? Because that keeps their interest, because it's an old, everyone laughs at me, and I always say retention's the best form of recruitment.
It is,
and and it is, and if you
bring, and that's the thing, isn't it? We when we look at the numbers, we can bring people into the roles. We can't keep people in the roles, generally speaking.
Yeah, that's the thing. We need to look at how we retain that, and it is about understanding what drives them, where their interests are, and supporting them and mentoring them through it. And if they're feeling that they're making a difference, if they can see that it's making a difference to themselves as well, then we will keep that. We will keep those people.
Yeah. What do you think if you were advising a manager that was going through a recruitment drive, for example? Because you said about retaining staff, probably the best way, but if they had to recruit, then what would you be advising them on what they're looking for in a support worker or in their staff members?
So I think, first of all, you need to know what you're looking for, and you need to understand your own business. So, we talk about value-based recruitment, and that is first and foremost, you've got to know what the values of your organisation is. What is your mission?
Yeah.
And it's not a lovely saying that's printed out and stuck on the wall, or actually, does everyone feel it?
Could they tell you it? I think that's always a good test.
Not just repeat it.
Yeah.
But can they tell you how it feels? And how are they actually putting it into practice? And from there, that looks at what the values are then you need for your organisation. And so you recruit to them, and people then feel that them as an individual, qualification, obviously there's certain job roles that we need qualifications, we need specific, accreditation, yes. But actually, there's some that you need those values and those behaviours because you can be trained in some of the other things.
Yeah.
So it's getting the people that actually fit with your values. Their values fit, they align.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. So it's very much about you need to, and so we've got, skills for care of, obviously we've got the manager induction toolkit, and that actually helps you. We've got the value-based recruitment information. We've got the induction toolkit that helps you look at even helping to retain them before they've even started. First of all, value-based recruitment, but then once you've got them, don't lose them.
Yeah.
Look at before they even start and then on day one, what happens on week one, on month 2 and 3.
I remember doing a training exercise where, as a manager, where we looked at a new staff member's journey and what we presented to them in the first couple of weeks, and we kind of talked through various things, and because it can be a very stressful, very scary at times role to play. And if you don't know what you're doing and you feel out of sorts, you're likely to lose people very quickly.
Yeah.
And we talked about the difference between, we observed a couple of different pathways. And one was meeting with your manager day one, sitting down together, feeling like they cared that you'd arrived.
Remembered your name.
Yeah, know who you are, all of those things, introduction, welcome. How are you welcoming that person to your organisation? And then conversely, we talked about experiences which sadly we all knew of, where somebody turned up day one and they were straight out there, 2-to-1, observing someone's practice, and then 3 days later they were on their own. And I think that's what you're talking about, really. How are we... Induction, I think, is the most important part of retaining somebody.
Without a doubt. And it is difficult. I absolutely recognise in that, it's fine me sat here saying that.
I know.
But when you're in a business, you're wanting to give good care and support, and you're desperate for staff.
Yeah.
And the day, and you've even planned an induction maybe, and the day they come, 2-3 members of staff have gone off sick.
What do you do?
So it's fine me sat here and preaching and saying this is what you should do.
Yeah.
But it is about, but you can also maybe, the thing is, if they've got that plan already, even if there is an emergency, at least if the individual can see that plan and the team are involved in that and they have a buddy.
Yeah.
They've got someone they can go to. The manager does turn up and speak to them and at least explains to them, look, this is what would happen, but actually so-and-so's off. I'm not going to ask you to take that, but what I'm going to do is where I'd maybe put you with Fred over there to observe for a moment. I'm going to put you with Mary here.
Yeah.
And it is about having that plan B, plan C, plan D, but at least if it needs to be planned. And it's also, for me, induction. And again, there's a new toolkit that's between social care and health.
Yeah.
And that's an induction into the system.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes people forget that they're part of this wider system. And so that takes, wherever you work, it gets you to understand that. Where does health and social care fit together?
Yeah.
What's everyone's roles? What's your role in it? And how does someone's pathway of accessing all these, what does it look like? And that gives you that wider understanding and develops those relationships outside of your four walls, which is really necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. So all these things considered, what is good care to you? What do you think the building blocks of it are?
So it is having an organisation that has the values, that actually looks at the quality isn't a tick box. It actually means different things to different people. So again, it's person-centred, but it's delivered with respect. It's delivered with kindness. It's delivered with professionalism, that people understand their boundaries, because that's another thing I think in social care is very difficult because you do work with individuals and you do build relationships, but it's remembering those boundaries, that professionalism. Good communication, communicate well, but listen well.
Yeah. We've talked about that a lot.
And abundance.
Is listening for listening's sake or listening because you're listening to hear?
Listening, yeah. And I think, but as an organisation, it's about, for me, good care for me, if looking for my family members, it would be somewhere that I could see their staff are cared for as well.
Yeah.
That they are trained, that they do have the opportunity to develop. They have got a safe space to go to ask questions, to be supported, that their well-being, because if you're looking at the staff, that to me gives me a sense of how they would look after my family member.
How do we, a couple of things come to mind. So we talked earlier about resilience with our staff team. So like, how do we build that? And I'm just wondering whether we don't always make effective use of the staff that we have, because it can sometimes be quite hierarchical. It's, the manager or the shift lead or whoever it may be makes the decision on the shift, and then everybody else supports, and that's what they do. But actually, what I think works really well is when you've got teams that are specialised, like you say, and you go to Sally about this and someone else leads on medication, someone else leads on that. And it, like you say, it gives people more opportunities within their role. But I wonder whether that's how we build a more resilient team as well.
I think it is, because they're learning from each other, they're supporting each other, and they're feeling valued. And, there's things like, we do a lot around dignity. We've got the dignity champions, and that could be anybody within the organisation, but they lead on then.
Yeah.
And again, it's encouraging them to develop, because we are all leaders, as we said earlier, all leaders in our own rights. And you can support, it doesn't matter what your role is.
Yeah.
You can support someone else in your organisation. And also it's about caring and looking after each other. Because if we're working as a team, so if one of your team members, there's something, they don't see themselves today, and it's about going and checking on them and checking again. Because sometimes people will always say they're okay, but checking again. And if need be, just flagging up, and it's not about, grassing. But if you see someone who's struggling and really needs that support, it's about putting, not literally, but sometimes the team's arms around them and supporting them through that. And you need to build that trust up. It takes time to build that. So it's about building that trust and that team culture. We talk about positive team culture, and it is about building that. So there is that trust and that respect between each other.
Yeah. Where does self-care come into that?
I think if you don't look after yourself, how can you look after others?
Yeah.
And I think it's very much so. And us as humans, never mind as care workers, don't always do that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think most people are guilty of that sometimes. But I think sometimes you do need to maybe stop and take a breath. And if you've had a difficult day, is actually say, I've had a difficult day. I need just 10 minutes out, or a difficult situation. I need, 10 minutes out to just think things through and to reflect on what's happened, or to maybe go to your manager, or to, if you've got a buddy or a mentor, and just talk things through. But then you need to be looking at how you then, how do you look after yourself away from work? And, we saw that in COVID, so much pressure on people, both in work, out of work. They were bringing their, all that fear and thoughts home with them.
Yeah.
And we saw afterwards, sometimes people collapse, sort of a year after COVID.
Just holding it all together for that time period.
Yeah.
That must have been a really tricky time. And you were supporting managers, weren't you, throughout that time period?
Yeah, it was.
Is there anything that stands to mind?
Well, I just, people who work in social care are amazing.
Yeah, full stop.
Yeah.
Anyway, without that brought.
I just seen some of the things that people went through, that they actually moved from their homes to live in. They lived in caravans. I heard of people living in tents, in the gardens of homes. So they were there, but also they weren't taking anything home as well. And it was just, we have registered managers networks, and we've got WhatsApp groups were set up. Certainly through COVID, we set them up. And we were having people at 2-3 in the morning messaging, saying, I've lost a member of staff, I've lost, one of my residents. And they were heartbroken. Didn't matter what time of day or night, someone was there for them. Another manager would pick that up. And it was just unbelievable. I have so much respect for, for anyone who works in the sector, but those people, those managers, and all the staff who work through that.
Yeah.
It was a
really unique time, wasn't it? And we were seeing managers support you learned that people from other locations.
We had someone delivering tins of beans at the end of dread because they weren't allowed to go in supermarkets like NHS staff were at the beginning. So they were running out of food for the residents. So we'd got one manager dropping off catering-sized tins of beans at the end of the journey. I had managed to get someone to make 3,000 odd 3D visors, and so I went round. Sort of staff just open
like a little Amazon driver in the alley, a little pre-Amazon.
My husband there in his Land Rover was drafted in to drive me around, and meeting people in pub car parks and plonking them on. But I felt it was the least, because it's a bit like that survivor guilt, and you're not there front line. You think, what can we do?
What can I do?
Yeah. So I became the Del Boy of social care.
Started dealing in tins of beans.
Tins of tomato plants and all sorts.
Spreading them around. Love it. But it was also heartbreaking, wasn't it, at the time for a lot of... And I guess that's where that resilience comes in, and being able to support each other in the team. It had to be done. There was no.
Yeah, it was that. People just said, that's it.
Yeah.
We've just got to get on and do it.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was really recognised. Some of the things that actually happened, and what people did.
I think that time period has been quite transitional for our workforce. I think we've lost a lot of good staff that have been in the industry. I know plenty myself that were working at the time, and through decisions at that time period and all the injections and everything, that actually, people left the sector because they felt undervalued. They didn't feel like they were valued at that time. And I think it's been quite transitional since then, hasn't it? How do you think we're going to recruit enough staff? How are we going to bring people or draw them into this wonderful sector? Because I still believe it's the best job in the world.
Oh, and me. I mean, some days, right at the age you think, I need to do this.
Yes.
Why didn't I stick when I got offered, to go and work at Tesco on a management scheme? Why didn't I take it?
Good luck more than them by now.
But no, absolutely love it, absolutely agree. But I think it's about helping people understand the vast array of opportunities.
Yeah.
About professionalising it. And the Care Workforce Pathway, I think, is going to really bring that to the fore.
Yeah.
Because, you look at NHS and they've got their career pathway, they've got the banding. Very different.
It's very clear, isn't it? How you progress, how you maintain that role, but you are considered more senior, or you don't necessarily take on more responsibilities. You're just more experienced, and that's valued.
Exactly. And I think the Care Workforce Pathway, I know the Care Workforce Pathway will do that. Already we're seeing, providers, even in the early stages, starting to map in their job descriptions and their person specs into the Care Workforce Pathway, into the roles within that. And then that's giving people an opportunity to say, right, well, this is what I'd like to do.
Yeah.
This is where I'd like to go. Well, what's the path we're going to do? And we've also got colleges now that are starting to map in their offer, their learning and development offer, mapping it into the Care Workforce Pathway.
Brilliant.
So that they can say, well, you do this, you're doing your level 2.
Yeah.
This is where, on the pathway, this is where you'll be going in.
Yeah.
And here's the opportunity. This is where you want to end up. Well, this is the route that you could do. And so we're seeing it being used in many different ways. And I think we've got to professionalise that. We've got to show young people, that actually is a career opportunity.
It is a career.
When you look around, once social care's got you, it's got you.
Yeah, no one leaves. Not really. You might dabble in a few alternatives, but you never go.
People coming back, or the volunteering, or the doing something. They still keep that ear to the ground, don't they? And you can't. It's there.
Yeah.
It's there. I will say care work is a bit like a stick of rock, isn't it? You sort of cut them through. It's all the way through.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that. So what's next for Skills for Care then? What have we got coming up?
So, obviously lots and lots of things. If you want to sit here for another 2 hours, to reel up. But so many things. What is really been a move forward for the sector, and really honoured be part of Skills for Care that's been coordinated, is the workforce strategy for adult social care. That's been fantastic, and that's brought together an array of stakeholders and organisations and people who work in the sector, people lived experience, come together and look at what do we need, where are we going to, and we've got over 50, don't test me on it, commitments and recommendations from that strategy, but it's owned by everybody. And this is where already we've seen some of those recommendations, commitments being met, which is great. We're like, what is it, year and a half in now, and I think that's been a real move forward. So I'm excited to see what happens with that as we move forward. And like I said, it seems to be more cohesive.
Yeah.
To me.
And is it because of the number of people that have contributed to it, do you think?
I think so, because it's contributed, and it's ownership. They own it. and it's their responsibility. So even, you know, we've got resources there to help managers look at how do you embed some of the work. And it's about, you know, taking it a bit at a time, looking at certain elements, because I don't think managers or providers realise actually they're contributing to it, but they are.
Yeah.
And I think so that's really exciting. The care workforce pathway is exciting. We're doing quite a lot around delegated healthcare.
Okay.
And we work very closely with our local integrated care boards to look at where social care fits.
Yeah.
How do we work collaboratively together? You know, we know a lot is community.
Oh, is that linking into the neighbourhood models?
Yes, so we're doing quite a bit at the moment at sort of scoping out what that looks like. Where does social care fit into that? How can local providers contribute? And again, it's about getting people to understand that expertise, those professionals that are in that sector that can offer that advice, that guidance, that support, those services.
Yeah.
So that's a really good piece of work that I'm enjoying working on at the moment within our region. There's obviously lots of other things. What I would say, you know, for me is my aim. I can speak as Midlands here, but I know all the other heads of regions would like to say this as well. But for me, my aim is that every single care provider is linked in with my team in the Midlands.
Yeah.
They know their locality manager. They attend the registered manager networks for that peer support, those updates. We have a nominated individual and CEO network. We have a learning provider network, etc. And I think so they would all be able to, you know, remain updated, have that support between themselves, realise that they've got access to things like the Learning and Development Support Scheme funding, you know, to help with that workforce development. They've got that support to help them workforce plan so they can look forward.
They're not resources that come with it that you don't have to duplicate.
Yeah, it's massive. You know, so many resources. And then also to contribute to the adult social care workforce data set, which to me, you know, for something, and I'll hold my hands up, I'm not a statistics person. But even before I came to Schools for Care, I found that so useful to look at. It really drills down. It gives you that picture of the workforce. And it's, you know, it's actually influencing governments, policy changes. You know, if you want to sit each evening and watch parliamentary question time, etc., you know, how often they talk about the figures from adult social care. It is probably Skills for Care, adult social care workforce data set figures. You know, we produce a state of the workforce report, and that really gives us a picture. And then providers themselves can use that data because they can start to look at, well, are my retention figures?
Am I benchmarking against the national averages? And stuff
if
like
not,
that.
what's happening?
Yeah.
Where am I going wrong?
Yeah.
So then we can guide them into, well, have a look at the value-based recruitment, have a look at the induction, have a look at, have you got, you know, development plans for future leaders? And so we can start by using that. And also even for contracts, you know, to be able to benchmark and show, well, actually our recruitment and retention figures
is better.
Are so, you know, our pay rates, you know, our members of staff who have got the relevant qualification, you know, there's only 50% roughly, if I remember the figures correctly, of the workforce have actually got the care certificate standards. So that's great, that's 50% who have, but what about the 50% who haven't? So what are we going to do? And if you're one of those providers, how are you going to look at embedding that and encouraging people to undertake the level 2 care certificate? And so that is really rich data. And the more we can get people to actually complete that, the more we can delve into it, because we already know, you know, the factors that contribute to retention, you know, and you're going to test me now, the 5 factors. It's about having the opportunity to work full time, not 0 hours.
Yeah.
I'm going to forget one of them now. The opportunity for training, qualifications, pay rates.
Yeah.
I told you I'd forget.
Is it well-being? Is it linked to
feels like those 5 values? But anyway, there's, and we've actually
we'll add it in later.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't show my manager that I forgot it as I'm talking. But then it shows actually from that data, it actually shows if you've got one of those 5 elements missing, the percentage that has on your retention. And if you've got all 5 present, the difference
it's more likely to.
So that's why, so for me, that's what I'd like to see everybody contribute, but also for them to actually gain that support. It's a very lonely job, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be. And sometimes, often as a support worker, when you're out and about on your own. And yeah, but it's good to have that peer support and have those opportunities to link together.
Definitely.
Just to summarise then, what do you think what do we need from our workforce to deliver good care?
We need a workforce who is in the job for the right reasons, who actually understands it and chooses to work in it, who are, obviously, again, going back to values, have the right values and behaviours, but have the passion, have the commitment, and want to make a real difference to others' lives and want to grow and develop themselves. Now, that doesn't always mean, like I said, going up the high. No. Sometimes people want to stay in that same role, but they grow and develop as an individual.
And hopefully we're now developing the structure that enables that to happen. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, thank
Shirley,
you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Good to hear about the work that you're doing as well.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Take care.